We actually have maps where Greene County is not on the map. Modern maps where it is not on. It's not even listed in the map of Pennsylvania. And that gives you an idea of how the rest of Pennsylvania views Greene County. It's sort of like, oh, that's a bunch of hicks down the corner by West Virginia. This does, you know, there's no vote. If everyone in Greene County voted one way, we could not sway an election unless Washington and Fayette County were voted the same way.
Yeah, we don't have enough votes.
We have no votes.
You see, so this when I talk about this hand in glove thing, they're all working collectively together to make sure that mining can occur and Marcellus Shale can occur. And we are the recipients, the citizens and the public are the recipients of the pollution. So that somebody in Connecticut, Greenwich, Connecticut, in a gated community, is living very well with clean water. And our legislator, our state reps are easy. Our county commissioners are easy. Our township officials are powerless. The people crave what they feel are these jobs that are bragged about, but I'm not saying they always come to fruition. It's a cultural, I think a lot of it is historically cultural. This end of the county, particularly back in the day of Andrew Carnegie, was immigrants. Couldn't speak English. They feared everyone. They feared the coal industry. You know, the coal industry built this town. Bobtown was built by Shanapin, the folks that own Shanapin Mine.
Right. In the 1920s.
Yeah, in the 1920s.
Populated to a large extent by immigrants, many of whom, you know, had somewhat limited English-speaking abilities, but they did have, as opposed to West Virginia, very quickly had unions, which I'm sure that the mine operators regretted as a result.
But if you have a company that's going to build you a house, and right over there you passed it was the company store that's going to give you script to buy food, you're not going to say too much about any kind of problems that societal problems that you may be having, because that could easily be taken away from you in any given moment. So it's almost like, if you ask me, it's like living under a fear regime.
Why people act the way they do. Because most of these people are one generation removed from the men coming in and beating your father up if he resisted the coal company.
Or Ken DeFalla has an uncle who was shot.
Or if he picketed because of unions or something like this. They are only one generation removed from that. It's their parents and their uncles and aunts that were abused by the coal company. So you go to these people and you say, you have to resist this company that is putting things into your water. And they go, well, why? We can't do anything.
Keep them poor, keep them dumb, keep them without any, just getting, you can't even think a month ahead. All you can think about is the next day. So I think that has a lot to do with what goes on.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really take a coal or gas business into a suburb in Westchester County or Montgomery County, Maryland, or Greenwich, Connecticut.
You can't even take it to the borough of Pittsburgh.
Because the land's too expensive, for one thing, and the people are just going to rise up and throw you out.
Right.
But in a poor community where the organization is relatively weak, it's possible to move in and buy up the land and buy a few politicians here and there and just move on.
I saw the landmen coming in and taking advantage of neighbors. I mean, the landmen come from independent companies basically hired to come into an area, get as many leases signed as possible, and then they leave. And so, consequently, they build up all sorts of unrealistic expectations, and take advantage of the fact that they know information that you don't know. And so the typical story at the time that this was starting was, we'll give you $25 per acre as a bonus for signing a lease, and well, I can't be here for more than an hour or two in this whole area, so sign now or I'm gone. And that was taking advantage of farmers who were in economic straits. And basically what you had was a monopolistic situation, to sound academic, and one had to change it into at least an oligopolistic situation. And so a group of us started to band together and the message was, well, you work with all of us or none of us. And the idea of picturing farmers and local landowners and saying, all they're interested in is money is nonsense, because the farmers depend upon their land in order to do anything. So we negotiate at very great expense. We negotiated a lease, same lease for everybody in our membership, which is over 1,000 pieces of property, over 120,000 acres. And the deal with the company was, you deal with all of us or none of us. While all of this has been taking place, what you have is the whole fracking nonsense that started with a whole bunch of fear-mongering, differences in definition, apparent uncertainty regarding certain things, a lot of misinformation, frankly. You've got New York not knowing what to do and being afraid of the New York City reaction on state politics. You've got the Delaware River Basin Commission, which supposedly regulates water flows and is there to protect the water going into New York. It has under the compact, it has representatives from New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, and the federal government. So they haven't been able to come up with any regulations, which in my opinion is an absurd situation, because and in fact is a violation of a contract between the states and DRBC, a contract that says that they must rely on the individual states for regulations and enforcement. So what happened at DRBC was they said, anywhere within our range, we're not going to issue any permits until we have our regulations in place. So that's not a moratorium, but it's a de facto moratorium, because it says there's no place you can even apply. It's not clear. So DRBC came out with a set of draft regulations, held hearings throughout the area. Regulations were highly defective. The hearings were a movable circus with the usual Josh Fox clowns going from place to place. You're going to poison my baby. You're going to start to burn. All of my water will be flammable. You're going to poison everybody in New York City. None of which has any validity, incidentally. So in effect, you've got a problem of an unending moratorium, because there's no timetable for the resolution of the problems. And there are people, incidentally, thinking of legal suits. against the RBC, saying that that it's what's known as a taking. You're taking away my rights as a property owner. As somebody who owns property, I have a right to invite you on my property, keep you off my property. I have a right to use it to earn a living, etc., etc. And so, by not having these regulations, you're preventing me from a constitutional right that I have. I've always said, this is the only resource they have. This is the only asset in the family. That's the investment. Well, we've mined coal in the past. We mined bluestone. I timber on my land. I grow crops on my land. The common denominator is on my land, on my land, on my land, on my land. So how is a gas well any different? I mean, that's the line of reason. And a gas well can bring me money and save the farm, which is the only thing I have to leave to my kids. Sure. What you've got is the resident property owners are, for the most part, not 100%, in favor of responsible gas exploration. You meet our environmental concerns and go ahead. The weekenders tend to be opposed. You know, I bought a piece of property, I like the seclusion, I like the air. You know, I've heard that, you know, there's going to be that if they do this, it's going to be noisy, light, blah 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 blah. That's for the most part, the houses that you see. The local residents are concerned about jobs, economic development, the slow quality of life, cost of living. Your weekenders are concerned with cell phone service, access to high-speed internet, quiet, pure water, etc., etc. You find much more receptiveness to this kind of thing as you go west, because that's coal territory. The first oil wells in the country was the Drake oil well, out in Titusville. Here it's something new, and you get this fear of, these strangers coming in from Texas, etc., etc. There'll be crime, prostitution, drugs, blah 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 blah. And frankly, there may well be some increase. It'd be hard to tell whether it's due to gas or due to the economy, etc., etc.